Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Witches Movie Coven. Grab your goat, grab a drink, grab some popcorn, grab whoever's next to you, and let's talk witches in movies with witches. And we want you to talk, and we want you to join in as well. Sorry, I'm going to turn this over to my co-host. I am Patti Negri. I am one of your hosts, and I'm going to let everybody else introduce themselves, starting with Jason in a clockwise way, because I'm going to stop talking for 10 seconds.
I'm Jason Mankey, author of a whole multitude of witchcraft books, and I think I was the first with the Black Phillip, so I'm going to claim that now as something, to be very proud of in my life.
Richard-Lael.
Yes, I am Richard-Lael. That is one name, not two. If I were just Richard. Anyway, I am known as the Gentleman Psychic, and I am in my new home in New Orleans, Louisiana. So there's that. I am unpacking and barely here, but I'm here. That's the good thing.
It's amazing. I mean, he's literally been there just hours. I was seeing him last night on live, and your everything you own was still on the street. Not that many hours ago.
It was the movers were exhausting. I was paying them by the hour, and I had them for 2 hours. It was kind of expensive, but I had these movers, and they would take a break and go down to the corner store. And then they would sit down on their phone, and they'd take a phone call, and then they'd come inside with the tiniest little light box. And finally, when it came down to right at the end of 2 hours, I said, listen, all of this other stuff I can get in, but I need for you to just take everything out of the truck and just set it on the street, because there's 4 big things that I can't carry. I'll carry the rest. I can't carry those things. So we did that, and then I had to tip them even extra to ensure that they would take those things out. But it's fine. It's fine. I'm here. The house is in chaos, but I just moved in a few hours ago.
Congratulations. Wow. Okay. Heather.
Hi, I am Heather Greene. I am the author of Lights, Camera, Witchcraft, a book that focuses on witches and witchcraft in movies. I am also an acquisitions editor. There it is, an acquisitions editor worldwide, and a journalist that focuses on the occult and witchcraft in news. So, and here I am.
Yeah,
with my friend.
That's a clue. And Courtney.
That's me. I'm Courtney. I'm Ghostbait on Scared and Alone. I am a Twitch streamer of all things horror games. I am not so good at it practicing witch, and our resident Salem expert, I've decided to call myself. So there we go. And I'm here, and I'm excited, and I can't wait to get into this. Also, I have new Mystery Control merch on for everyone keeping track of how much money I spend. This is just for you, Richard-Lael, your famous quote. And if I may say so, I think New Orleans already agrees with you, Richard-Lael. You're glowing, and not just from the heat, I don't think.
Well, thank you, my dear. Thank you. I think it's because I'm not wearing any makeup.
Oh.
Also, I'm very red. I'm very red because when I was moving, I drove with the top down, like trying to get to the truck, and I was wearing very casual clothing because I didn't want to get stuck in Alabama.
Oh my. Oh, well, we are glad you made it. And thank you. And again, I'm Patti Negri. You might know me from The Witching Hour, my regular podcast, same producer. I have a book, Old World Magic for the Modern World. I've been doing the TV show Ghost Adventures since 2015. And let's talk movies. This week's movie, The Muppets Wizard of Oz. Heather, do you have anything from your book upon this fabulous film?
I know it was mentioned. I don't remember what I said honestly about it. I don't focus on it too much other than to mention it. The Courtney's gonna look it up. Apparently,
Very demure, like flipping, Courtney.
I was like, I'm gonna
Very
cheat and look
impressive.
it up.
the essence, I think the important things to know about this movie are generally about the Muppets. I like to talk about the Muppets and not necessarily specifically about this movie. The one thing about this movie to know is that it was put out right when Disney bought the Muppets. So this is, I believe, the last picture that was jointly produced between Jim Henson Company and Walt Disney before Walt Disney got full control over the Muppets. The interesting thing I was researching, and it would take a lot more time and digging, is why Warner Brothers did not go after this movie. And we can talk about the specifics of this later. Is Warner Brothers owns The Wizard of Oz and has in more recent years really been cracking down on people's their copyright infringement of the movie The Wizard of Oz, the MGM movie. And we can talk about that later if it comes up. So they did not, even though this movie is clearly not a mockery, but a derivative of the 1939 movie. It really isn't a adaptation of the books. It's very much one of the movies. So it's interesting that Warner Brothers didn't have anything to say. If they did, I haven't done detailed research though to see what kind of conversations or joint productions happen there. But the interesting thing about the Muppets is their heyday was in the late 70s and 80s, and I was a massive fan. At the time, they made some amazing, fun movies that are classics. The original one is the best, in my opinion, the Muppet movie. They did the Muppet Show, which was on, I think, every Monday or something like that. And then Jim Henson, who is a spectacular genius, and his work transcends even the Muppets, from Sesame Street, who own his characters there, to The Dark Crystal, which I loved at the time, Labyrinth, The Witches in the 90s. He actually died right before The Witches came out, Jim Henson, of I believe it was a sepsis. He had an infection or something. So it's tragic loss. He is a brilliant genius. The work he did pairing with Brian Froud and Frank Oz and all of these, just absolutely something that needs to be celebrated. And now, of course, Muppets was bought by Disney, so Disney has done the stuff since then. And according to what I've read and I understand, is that Disney did try to get involved earlier, and it was his daughter, Jim Henson's daughter, that eventually made the sale possible. So, and she was in support of it back in so we can talk about that as well. But that's just the basics. Disney has always flirted with The Wizard of Oz. The Muppets seem to be a good answer for that. We can talk about whether this worked or not as we go. So there's your little history.
Thank you. Thank you. Does anybody want to volunteer to go first?
Waka waka.
That sounds like a volunteer.
What? Well, all right, fine. So I am not the biggest fan of The Wizard of Oz to begin with. I'm so sorry if that hurts anybody's feelings. But I know.
There's a reason Heather's frozen right now
I
because of
know.
your comment.
That's why I try to sneak it in. Mm-hmm. Hopefully she can't hear me. But I do love the Muppets. And here's the thing. I put this movie on. Now I paid $14.99 and I bought this movie because I love the Muppets and I had faith in it. And the first probably 5 minutes of this movie, I was like, oh my God, this is like the most painful thing I've ever experienced in my entire life. But then when the Muppets came on, like, I remember how silly and goofy they are and how much I like it. So like that alone, I was laughing out loud. There was a lot of funny one-liners, whatever. They were crazy and silly. But then just like, it was like painful to watch. And it was, I don't think, like Tabitha said, the Christmas Carol version is cute. It's cute and gives me nightmares. But yes, I think that there's even the Haunted Mansion Muppets that they did recently I thought was really good. This was not the best, but I still enjoyed it to a point because the Muppets were in it. That's
it. All right.
I have quotes for later, but
okay, I'll go second. I did not like it. Oh my God. And I like everything. You guys know there's very little that I don't like with you guys. I love the Muppets. I've always loved the Muppets. I love Wizard of Oz, one of my all-time favorite movies, period, in the world. And combined together, I was very hopeful and very disappointed. It's like they tried too hard. It's like, yes, it was clever, and yes, the modern thing, and yes, the movie references and things like that. But it just did not gel for me. It's like lost the magic. Muppets have Muppet magic. Wizard of Oz has Wizard of Oz magic, and combined it. I just sat there going, okay, that's a funny line. I don't even know what it was. I mean, the people who were in it were fine, and young Ashanti and Queen Latifah, but it just lost its sweetness. It lost its magic, even with the Muppets. So I forced myself to stay awake, and it wasn't even the middle of the night, and I did it on a bigger screen. I'm like, so bored. I'm so bored. And again, this is probably, of all the movies we've watched, like my least impressed by, of even all those other bad ones. It's just like it didn't work. It didn't work. No energy. No energy. I don't know. So that's me. Okay. Jason wants to talk.
When I was 5 years old, I lived in East Peoria, Illinois, and I found out that in Chicago at the Museum of Science and Industry, they were going to have a special exhibit of the Muppets, like the actual puppets that you could go and you could see them. At that point in my life, I used to watch the Muppet Show on a TV tray, made my father take me to all of the Muppet films. Also loved Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas with a passionate fire that I still have that my wife does not quite understand. I love the Muppets. When the 2011 The Muppets movie came out, my wife and I went to the theater. We were probably the only people there without children. I cried. I loved it so much. I'm absolutely in the tank for the Muppets. This is a weak Muppets project, but all of the Muppet projects were pretty weak in the early 2000s, so I was not particularly surprised by that. It's also very kind of stuck in its time. There's a lot of jokes that are really stuck. What, in 2003, 2004, there's a joke about Napster that has not aged particularly well in the film. You know,
I screamed.
There's little moments of Muppet fun in the movie, but it just doesn't hold up with sort of the great ones. And it's not a surprise. This is a made-for-TV movie, right? This isn't a big box office production like some of the earlier and now some of the later Muppet films.
Okay, thank you.
I will say there are a lot of things I did not like about the film. It did not have the magic. However, what made it worth it for me was one line by Fozzie the Lion. Bear, where? That line is, they end up by going to see the wizard. And the guy opens the gate and he says, "Who are you?" "I'm Dorothy." "And who are they?" "We're friends of Dorothy." And that made me guffaw because that is a gay term. When people were in the closet in the 70s, they couldn't come out, and they couldn't. If you were a friend of Dorothy, it meant that you had a penchant for shoes and that you were also fond of rainbows. So you were a friend of Dorothy. So the fact that Fozzie the Lion is a friend of Dorothy, that made me laugh. That was the pinnacle. I also have to admit, I liked the fact that they did silver shoes, because that is closer to what is in the book, even though that's the only thing that's closer to the book. What also I thought was funny was when Miss Piggy as the good witch, she says, the shoes they're not, what are they?
Manolos. I think
Manolos.
Yeah. They're Manolos.
Yeah, it had a few moments, but there were a lot of other moments that I could have done without.
So Heather, a couple questions for you. You're the Wizard of Oz lover par excellence, right? And I know Patti loves the movie too. But I mean, there were silver shoes. the Munchkins help Dorothy 2 times in this film. That's really different than the MGM version. Is that in the book? Is that from the book? Maybe that's why they weren't sued.
There was too much from the movie for them not to have a stake, not to have Warner Brothers have a stake. I'm not a lawyer, but this movie copied. It was distilled down enough to copy, and it wasn't just the storyline. Yes, I don't know. I don't remember about some of the details, but if you look at the actual production values, if you look at the way they designed Emerald City, if you look at the way they entered into Munchkin Land,
For sure.
there's the tiny little details. This was most certainly a copy of The Wizard of Oz 1939, and the Muppets do that. That's one of the things they do. That's one of the things Henson has done, over the years, is kind of not mock, but honor, let's say, and have fun with Hollywood. So this was definitely not. I mean, there are pieces that were like the silver shoes from the book. I would guess that Warner Brothers, they probably paid. I know in certain cases, I think in Return to Oz, and I think there was several other movies where the owner of the Wizard of Oz, the rights owner, was paid for some pieces. So then maybe they paid Warner Brothers, and I just don't have the production documents to prove it. But some reason, or maybe Warner Brothers wasn't starting to go, to chase people down. They really didn't start and win cases until 2010, 2011, 2012. They actually had litigation against Disney doing The Great and Powerful Oz, which was, what was that, 2011, 2012. So I don't know. The original books were way more detailed in the travel and the journey. You see a lot more of that in The Great and Powerful Oz, and the Wiz does a little bit more. That's more like the books. So they did have 4 witches like the original books, though, in this case, or 4 Miss Piggy.
Little pigs.
Yeah, 4 little pigs. So yeah, I'm not sure how this was clearly a 1939 knockoff.
Well, obviously, because the little fellow, I can never remember his name, the little king prawn.
Pepe.
Pepe.
It's my favorite.
He says, okay, you can play Dark Side of the Moon now.
Yeah.
Which, of course,
Yes.
it's a direct reference to 1939 Wizard of Oz, because some hippies got smoking pot and thought, oh, okay, I'll play Dark Side of the Moon. So that is a direct reference to the actual film.
Yeah.
Even if it's only about through that one piece of music, it's a direct line.
Yep. And in the Greene, there's an intensity of Greene that you didn't use it on Miss Piggy, but it's there. There's just production values that just go, that's the movie, that's the movie, that's the movie. And it follows, the plot follows exactly the movie without the additional pieces that you find in the book. The various, what's the teacup girl or the China girl and the other little pieces that happen in the book that do not happen in this movie. So, yeah, it's a movie. It's a movie. It's not a book movie.
You bring up Pepe, though, and I love that prawn so much. And he's a very late addition to the Muppets canon. And the fact that he is Toto the dog, I could not give this a full thumbs down, wands down, because of the prawn, who just steals every scene that he's in.
Yeah.
I'm very passionate about this prawn.
Yeah,
Jason, I have to hop on that bandwagon because he saved it for me. Like, he was absolutely 1,000% my favorite character, and like half of the quotes that I only wrote down like 6, but like it was the prawn and Miss Piggy, and that was it. Mm-hmm. And I feel like everything he said and did, I was like, yep, okay, I'm here, I'm watching it, I'm laughing out loud, every single thing. I loved him so much.
So I'm going to jump in here. And first of all, one piece of history that's interesting is with Disney bringing this movie to the screen in the 2000s. This was a time when witchcraft films were going away. We saw a lot of fantasy films. We're getting a different type of witch film, but at the same time, Disney had just become very successful in hitting the teen market. That was the late 90s. They really found their place finally in the late 90s, with Disney Channel, with the Disney, I think Friday night Disney TV shows, and they started doing movies. They really found their stride again. And so this taking on the Muppets and then doing this kind of teen, kind of edgy, I call it edgy because it's not really for kids. There's jokes for adults too. So the Muppets was in line with that. They were also introducing this concept of multiculturalism in the 2000s. And you can see that with a lot of the Disney movies and shows that happen through 2000 to 2010s. It was this kind of time of this multiculturalism where they started to bring in more actors of color and you see that with like Twitches, for example, as the 2000s as another example. And I think I talk about Muppets Wizard of Oz in those terms because here you can see how Disney's doing this. That's their influence on this film because it does have a cast of people of color throughout it, which is different and is very Disney in the 2000s. So with that said, I did not like this movie. And I'm saying, and I don't, and look, let's be real. So, the Muppets, hold on. I'm a big fan of the Muppets. Okay. So, can you tell? And like Jason, I watch Emmett Otter's every year. Totally with you on that, Jason. It is the best holiday movie ever.
It's so good. The Paul Williams songs. It's the Paul Williams songs.
All the songs. I watched the Muppet movie as a child so many times, over and over on the giant VCS. And watched it again and again. Courtney's going, what did you just do?
I watched Hello, I had Titanic when it was 2 VHS tapes.
Did you do the one that went like this and went down with the buttons?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. I
didn't have that one. My grandparents had that one.
Oh yeah, that was my dad's, and we watched the Muppet movie. I mean, everything about Jim Henson. And one thing, everybody, and Richard-Lael, you're coming to Atlanta. The Muppets, Jim Henson has, or I think it's still there, the Center for Puppetry Arts in Atlanta is tied to the Jim Henson estate, and they have some of Jim Henson's puppets there. And I haven't been there in years, but the last time I was there, they had expanded the display, and I walked in and I was weeping. I was just weeping. They had Ernie, Bert, Big Bird. They had Doozers. They had some of the Labyrinth characters. They had Skeksis. They had it was just Fraggle Rock, man. I could not get enough of Fraggle Rock. So anything Muppets was totally, I was game for. This, however, being a lover of the Wizard of Oz, like Patti said, and a lover of the Muppets, you would think, yeah, I'm sorry.
You're right. There, when I suggested it, it was only because I Googled Muppets Witch, and then it came up with that song of Miss Piggy singing as the Wicked Witch, and I went, oh, well, that's kind of clever. And then after I watched it, while watching it, I felt like the fellows in the balcony. What is this show? I know it's about 30 minutes too long.
It was an hour and 40 minutes too long, Richard-Lael, let's be honest.
I wish we'd have gotten the TV version, because the TV version is 10 minutes shorter and there's no Kelly Osbourne. So that would
have
been much, much better.
That was weird.
It was, not only was it weird, but also, first of all, why? But then also because you're going to take this great multicultural cast, like Heather was talking about, you're going to take the person of color lead actress and turn her white for what?
Right.
For what? I love Kelly Osbourne, but for what?
For what? Yes, I know Kelly, and I agree. For what?
Yeah.
For what? Why?
Yeah, that was like if my jaw just dropped sitting there going.
I was like,
though, again, it's one of those things where she was very popular at that time. And this movie has a lot of little pop culture references that are not particularly timeless.
No.
The Napster line though, Jason, I screamed out loud and I was like, not the Napster. Oh my God. Like I'm so excited.
Yeah, I think that the Muppets Christmas Carol was one of the last good ones. I think that was good. Someone just put that up. And this one just really fell flat. And I think one of the things that they do, although Muppet Christmas Carol is not the case, is I think the Muppets do better when they're doing their own story. I think trying to mock or trying to put them into a classic that is so well known and been done, and really this flop, and I'm going to call it a flop, follows a long line of Wizard of Oz flops. Long line of Wizard of Oz flops, including The Return to Oz and The Great and Powerful Oz. There are very few Wizard of Oz films.
I will tell you though, this one was a flop, but there was another reference that made me howl, and that is that was a Flash reference when Miss Piggy gets on the hog and she's flying through the air. It's Flash. It's a scene from Flash. All of the leather daddies flying through the air. It's Flash.
It is Flash.
So, the nerd in me went, it's Queen, it's Flash, it's leather daddies. I love that. I love that scene.
And they do that. That's one of the classic Muppet things. They are constantly they're constantly referencing pop culture at the time. Unfortunately, this one didn't do it successfully.
I don't know. I think it. I mean, it wasn't great, obviously, but I don't know. I thought it was cute and it was funny.
I would like to address this comment on the Wiz, being terrible. First of all, the movie itself was a great tragedy. However, I can sing every song and I love every bit of it, and it was not a successful film. The Wiz as a musical was a Tony Award winning and traveled around the country. So I would love for us to one day review The Wiz. The Wiz and Wicked are two of the most successful ventures that come out of the Wizard of Oz canon. The Wizard of Oz, but as I said in the past, there were a number of movies before 1939. They were all flops. And when we got to the 30s, they actually thought the Wizard of Oz was hexed. It was poison. It was box office poison. Nobody would touch it until MGM did.
It's partially because, too, the name, it was originally called the Emerald City. And for some reason, emeralds are supposed to be cursed. When they changed it to the Wizard of Oz, magic.
The 39 movie's just so perfect, though. I mean, it never looks dated. The music's still great. The performances are great. It's just one of those movies that will exist forever.
Forever.
Yeah.
So Courtney, Courtney, why don't you like it?
It's boring.
Oh,
I have the original movie. I don't love it, but I have a great memory with it. One of my most fun memories. I hated Thanksgiving as a kid, and I to this day do not celebrate Thanksgiving. But one of the best times was there was a small theater in my hometown, and after dinner, my family surprised us and took us to the movies, which was just the coolest thing, because why would we ever go to the movies on Thanksgiving? And we saw The Wizard of Oz, and that spawned my tradition that I keep now, and I think about it every year, that The Wizard of Oz is what started it all. But my son and I, instead of having Thanksgiving dinner, we go to the movies. And I love movies, and so it was really special to me. But rewatching the film today, it's hard for me to get through. I don't love it the same way that you guys do. It's slow to me, and it doesn't capture my attention in the same way.
I have a VHS copy of it that was taped from TV in 1979 during the Iran hostage crisis with the commercials. So that might change your attitude towards it. You can watch the commercials. There's Reese's Pieces and all kinds of other fun commercials to watch from 1979, along with the CBS logo with the rainbow and everything. That might change your attitude.
See, I'd love. I'd love that.
You've talked about that before, and you've talked about making copies of it or something.
Whoa. Okay, I'm going to work on that. I'm going to try to get some DVDs out to everybody.
Well, yeah, there are those places that do that, right? Where you can like send them a VHS tape and get like a digital copy of it. Like I would watch that, and I'd probably love it.
You just watch the commercials with the
I
mustard
would love
colored jackets on the TV guys and all that stuff. Oh, it's fantastic! Right off of New York TV.
It may tickle the ADHD in my brain that cannot sit through the Wizard of Oz. So you never know. Maybe I'll appreciate it differently.
I miss those good commercials. When I was a kid, that was oftentimes the thing I looked forward to in a show. I loved the commercials. Count Chocula and Hot Wheels and Micro Machines, the guy who spoke really quickly. Micro Machines, not a real thing. I mean, I miss those.
I used to have a tape of like all my favorite Christmas specials when they were on TV, like obscure ones, but also like Rudolph or whatever. But then all the obscure, like there was, I forget what it's called, but the mice are in the clock and they're the clockmakers.
That's The Night Before Christmas.
All right, I don't remember it, but
Sorry.
I just have this weird memory of it.
I did write a Christmas book. I know all of this stuff, backwards and forwards.
But I used to have a tape with all those that we taped, and that was probably in the late 80s, early 90s, and they were like with all the commercials on them, and so commercials give me nostalgia because I used to watch that every year. That was how I watched my Christmas movies. I love that.
I also think that like the specialness of all this is gone, right? Because you can watch it anytime that you want to watch it. And for people of an age, like you got to catch Rudolph once a year. You got to catch The Wizard of Oz once a year. And if you missed it, it was just too bad. And, it was tough to watch TV back then. I mean, that's what we needed TV Guide for. And I think people take that for granted today. And it's easy to kind of be blasé about things because you can see them anytime that you want to.
Right.
And you had to get up you either had to get up and change the channel, or you had that Space Command remote with the blink, blink, blink. You had 4 buttons. Blink, blink, blink.
I think somebody just asked a really good question. Would this movie have been better if Jim Henson was involved? So Jim Henson died in 1990, right before The Witches was released. And so what do we think? I think it probably. I would like to say it would be. I would like to believe it would be. I don't think everything he did was perfect, and not everything has stood the test of time he's done. Some of it's very dated. I think The Dark Crystal is very dated, although I enjoy it. So it would be interesting. I don't know. It's an interesting question. What do you guys think? Could Jim Henson have saved this?
Different.
I don't think it needed saving. I thought it was funny. I don't love it. It's not my favorite, but I'm not sorry that I paid $14.99 for it. The more I think about it, the more I'm not sorry. If I had paid $25 for it, I probably would have called Amazon.
If Jim Henson was alive, I don't think it would have been made.
That
is what I think. So we would have been spared this degradation of the Muppets.
Probably it is a degradation of both. I want to comment to everybody's talking about commercials because somebody said you hate them and they're boring now or they're just annoying now, but they can't spend that much money unless it's Super Bowl where people pay $1 billion to be on it. Who watches commercials?
Only people who watch sports.
Yeah, you watch, even if it's a regular TV thing. My husband will record it and then you sling past them. So.
Speaking of commercials, I'm gonna tell you all a secret. Not really a secret, but it's gonna tell you a lot about me. My go-to like comfort movie.
Can we guess first? Because I think that would be fun.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm gonna say that you were in a Life cereal commercial.
No, I was not in anything. My go-to like comfort movie that I watch like when I'm trying to go to sleep.
The Princess Bride.
I love The Princess Bride. That's not it though.
The Witch from the Sea.
No, that's what I watch when I want to have nightmares.
Gremlins.
Oh no. Patty, any guesses?
Birds. The birds.
Ooh, the birds. Patty, what do you think of me? That I'm just kidding.
Well, that was my favorite one growing up. It was Wizard of Oz and the Birds. I was this little bitty. Yeah, I love Hitchcock.
No, so it's Twilight because that's embarrassing. So, but I am so annoyed by commercials today that I went to go watch Twilight the other night. Okay, put that down, Jason.
Sorry, you just mentioned the Twilight movie, so I had to disinfect
Yeah,
the office.
it's a drink, and especially if me being in the vampire community.
I know. It's not good. They're not good. I'm not saying they're good. I just enjoy them. But I went to put it on the other day, and it was free on Tubi with ads, and I got so annoyed by the ads that I went and paid to buy it so that I didn't have to watch any ads. But like back in the early 90s when the ads were good, I would sit and watch things through commercials when I didn't have a choice, but I liked it then. But now it's too easy to just watch things without them, and it was worth it for me to pay the $8.99 for Twilight. So
That's so
I agree.
I have a Twilight.
I want to
story.
hear your Twilight
I have a Twilight. So years ago, when I was living in San Francisco, my friend drove up from San Francisco and spent the night, and then we drove back down to Los Angeles, and I spent the night, and then we drove back up to San Francisco where she spent the night, and then she drove back to Los Angeles, which was silly. I should have just gone to Los Angeles. That was really how it should have been, but it was not. We ended up by going to this bar, and I thought, you know what? I am going to douse myself in glitter. I will look like a gay vampire. I will douse myself in glitter. And then I ended up, I pumped the gas for her. And of course it got on me. And someone said, "Who smells like gas?" But the funny thing was that for years, she would tell me, "There's one sparkle dust in my bathroom, and it sort of is embedded from your visit. It is still there." And I laugh every single time. It was years until she moved away.
That's awesome.
That's hilarious.
Right?
That's funny. Glitter for
I looked like a vampire in the sunlight, a Twilight vampire in the sunlight.
gassy glitter. Colin makes a good point. The ultimate in marketing, they now make money from us paying to not watch commercials. 100% true.
Mm-hmm.
It's very true.
That's streaming for you.
But also commercials are boring anyway now. Before they used to have, remember the Noid from Pete Domino's? Was it
Avoid the
Domino's?
Noid.
I love him. And the California raisin.
I was a California raisin in a dance recital, and then they gave us dolls of the California raisins, and I had to throw it away because it gave me nightmares, and I woke up screaming that the raisin was staring at me.
And the love of dolls begins.
Most of you guys are probably too young, but when I was a kid, it was post-Raisin Bran raisins. There was this group of heavyset guys in a bowl of cereal. And I remember if you love raisins, love juicy raisins, you'll love post-Raisin Bran more. No. I loved it. I sang it over and over again. And then a few years back, this guy moved into my neighborhood, actor, because everybody in my neighborhood is an actor. And when I found out that he was one of the guys in the bowl of cereal, my whole opinion of Jay is like, "Oh my God, you're a raisin!" And he was beautiful. Bob Berry.
I can't tell you how many of my intrusive thoughts are jingles from commercials that I used to watch, like 1877 cars for kids.
No.
In the head. There's intrusive thoughts. Commercials were made to do that. Oh, like we're spraying again.
No.
It's my money and I need cash now. J.G.
Wentworth.
You need to stop. You need to stop.
There's a really great little Simpsons joke where they talk about, like, let's sing some family songs together. And all of a sudden they start going, "I feel like chicken tonight, like chicken tonight." And yeah, for whatever reason, those of us of a certain age, we all know the jingles.
Yeah, I could probably sing all the
And
80s
you know
jingles.
what? I have an inkling that this film that we watched would not have been nearly as horrible. It would have also been longer. It would have been 4 hours instead of 2. But at least if it would have had good commercials from 2003, maybe this would have been a better film.
Yes.
Well, I don't know about that, Richard-Lael, but okay. I do have to say, I'm going to say something positive about the film because it's a bad film. And it's not one of those bad films that I talk about that are important, because it really isn't, other than to mark the fact that Disney's part of it, and the multiculturalism attempts and all that. But I do love seeing my favorite characters. I do love it when Miss Piggy is sees Kermit for the first time at the end of the film, and they do their whole classic, oh yeah, and Kermit's like, and she says, who is this handsome guy? And of course the prawn comes up and says hello, and then she just goes, wow, get away. I love going from her sweet part to her just violent, they captured the classic, like when Kermit appears for the first time, I just want to hug him. They retain the characters. They retain the characters that I love. Miss Piggy was Miss Piggy for most of it. Even she didn't do a good Wicked Witch of the West. I didn't buy that. I didn't like the whole biker thing. That ruined the whole witch thing for me, and it really was problematic. But I saw her, and Sweetums was there, and Floyd, and Dr. Teeth, and seeing all my favorite characters who I adore in other films, it was nice to see them. And it was nice to see them playing, they cast it right too. Kermit should be the Scarecrow, and Gonzo is great as the Tin Man, and definitely Fozzie plays the lion. It works. All of that works. The movie is terrible.
Courtney, what are your quotes? Because I always look forward to that.
So I have some.
Okay.
Speaking of the scene that Heather was just talking about, like Kermit's like talking about, I work in the fields. Or on the farm or whatever, and she goes, I love agriculture, plowing the fields, rolling in the hay, and I was like, get it, girl. Like, you got it. And then one of my all-time favorite lines from the movie was in her song that she was singing about, the one that we talked about earlier. One of the lines in the song was, there's only room for one rock goddess in Oz, and I thought that was pretty awesome. Mm-hmm. And then she says in the beginning, I forget which witch she was at this point because it was very hard to pay attention, but she's talking about the shoes, and she says, but there's a powerful magic connected to them, and look how sparkly they are. Like, it's like, all right, yeah, I see shiny things like a crow too, and I get excited. But then the rest of mine are Pepe, because I loved him.
Yeah.
He burps and he just announces, this was me. And then he says, boo-hoo, okay? I live in a stinking algae-covered fishbowl in a trailer park, okay? We're gonna poke the witch in the eye. End of story. And I thought the poke the witch in the eye is the story. And I was like, he's got him. And then at the end, I love when he does this, like, this thing. So he says, you better keep your promise or I'll go cyclone in here. That's my favorite. But I think the only room for one rock goddess in Oz was my favorite one.
So Richard-Lael already mentioned this line, but when I was watching the film, and then I heard, for those of you who have Dark Side of the Moon, press play now, I was like, I'm going to write that down because that is such a great line. But then I found others in this film, which is why it's not a total waste. Statler and Waldorf are taunting our heroes, and one of them says, there are two reasons I don't like Lion's jokes. My ears. Which I thought was pretty funny. There's also some sort of adult humor in there. What happens in Emerald City stays in Emerald City, because that's what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. And then there's one of the Muppets, and it's not a Muppet that I know, but he just says, you can have everyone spank me and call me names. Which I was like, whoa, yeah.
I yelled that one out loud. I yelled out loud when that one was on, and I was like, oh! And then I almost wrote it down. I was like, I don't know if we can talk about that, but I like it.
There were a couple of those earlier. I won't repeat them because I'm not sure if we can, but there were a couple of laugh out loud one-liners, and that's what, you watch The Great Muppet Caper, and I was trying to remember. I love The Great Muppet Caper, and it's definitely it's not as refined as the first movie, but that's what they do. The Muppets are one-liners. That's part of their personality, but they're famous for them. So there were good one-liners throughout.
There was also, and I didn't write it down because it was so long, but I loved, and I was thinking how good it would look on a t-shirt if we made it into a checklist. The whole thing that she goes to where she's like, give me the great silver whistle, and he's like, the werewolves are on vacation, and then like, okay, well, give me this thing, and it's like, well, the crows are at a wedding, and like, give me this thing. Well, they have a religious holiday today. So then she lands on the enchanted biker cap, and the flying monkeys can come.
We talked a little about Ashanti in this movie, but some of the other cameos, and she wasn't a cameo, obviously, really surprised me. Like Quentin Tarantino was quite the shock.
Random.
Yeah, but I also think that if you have a chance to be in a Muppet movie and you're in Hollywood, you probably take the chance to be in a Muppet movie, no matter how bad that particular Muppet movie is, or how random your appearance will be in the Muppet movie.
Yeah, I thought that was like I was like I don't get that scene, but okay.
Cut.
That was not necessary. But yeah, I agree with you. And I think the guy who plays, what's his name?
Jeffrey Tambor?
Yeah,
Tambor.
the one, Tambor, that plays the Wizard of Oz. He's always good to watch. He's always fun. So he played a good role. Unfortunately, I keep going back to, I feel sad. I feel sad for the Muppets and for the experience that it is.
And David, I love David Alan Grier in most everything he does. He was pretty much wasted here. Even Queen Latifah was pretty much wasted there. Yeah. And Ashanti has a great voice, and she only really sang 1.5 songs. It was a complete waste of her talents, especially because she's not a particularly great actress.
Yeah, she's very one level. She was very one pretty young girl, but no chops.
Beautiful voice.
Right. But it's unfortunate. It's just we have to chalk this one up to the unfortunate, and maybe next time we can watch the Muppet movie, and just watch a really good Muppet movie in their program.
Because this
Muppet Christmas Carol and Yule, baby.
Oh yeah, we could do that one too.
Yeah. And speaking of that, we were talking before we came on air, because we've always done witch movies, and we'll continue to do witch movies and some witch TV shows. But we were contemplating expanding onto just things witches would like that would work in our witchy world. And we could even expand that. So again, we always want you guys' ideas of movies and TV shows and whatever else that we can review. We want to see what you guys want to see. So I can't believe this, of all the things we've done, we talked this one the shortest of all the films we've done. So we could chat about all sorts of things, but before we chat, I guess we have to vote, unless there's anything else to be said about this fabulous film.
I disagree with Heather. I liked Miss Piggy as the Wicked Witch. I liked the biker getup, and I thought her song as the Wicked Witch was one of the best parts of the movie.
I did like her song.
I thought it was maybe the only good original song in the film.
I didn't like the music either.
No.
We didn't know much about the music.
I don't have my wand. I have a walking stick because everything is packed away. So I have my gold tip walking stick, and it is
down.
One cannot go lower. Waka waka.
The good news is,
out you go. One cannot go lower. Yeah, voted for us. We pulled the string. So Alicia, we have yours. Wands up, wands down. Muppets in Oz.
The good news is we never have to watch it again.
I bought it, so I
Except
will be
Courtney.
getting my money's worth.
Courtney has to watch it at least 5 more times to make her person worthwhile.
Prawns up.
Prawns up.
Prawns up.
That was good.
All right. Okay, we have a few minutes left. And if we say what's coming up now, we go into cackle. We're going to have to be cackling for 5 minutes.
No.
Well, we've never done this before, so we didn't talk about it beforehand. If anybody, we're in real time, but if anybody has any questions for us as a group or individuality, I mean, if a 5-minute questioning thing at the end would not be bad. It could be about movies. It could be about us. It could be about anything. Let's just see if it works or not. Otherwise, we're going to be cackling till the end of time.
I can't laugh that long.
How was everybody's Lammas? Lunasa.
Oh, beautiful. Mine was beautiful. Beautiful ritual. fire, harvest, everything.
Lovely.
How was yours?
Our Coven ritual's Friday, so we're still
Oh.
not there. But I
Yes.
went to an open circle ritual on Saturday, which was fun. You know, it's just nice to get out and see other witches.
Yeah.
Lammas rates low for me as a Sabbath. I'm sorry.
The one's down.
It's wands down for this Sabbath.
We're not doing anything until what's today? Wednesday. Tomorrow. We're doing a family thing. We always do it at the dinner time.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Lovely.
Okay, so we have somebody asked Lauren asked how you're in Richard-Lael in New Orleans. There's a question mark. Yes, he's in New Orleans. I don't know if you heard the beginning.
Yes, I am in New Orleans. I had a funny story though about my trip here, because if the movers were bad, at least they showed up. But I will tell you, when I went to get the truck, I originally had requested a 20-foot truck, and I said, there's no way that my things are going to fit. I have big things. There's no way it's going to fit. Could I get a 26? And they said, no, we don't. So I waited and waited and waited. The woman who was supposed to bring the truck back didn't show up. So says, you know what? We've got a 26-foot truck for you. And I pull out of their their parking lot, and the brakes fail, and then the thing catches on fire.
Wow. That's quite a story.
So, and then I had to wait to get a new truck. It was chaos, but I'm here. It was good. I'm here in New Orleans, and I dumped things on the lawn, and then of course I live in not the greatest neighborhood, and people went, oh, what do we have right here? I said, don't touch it, don't. So yeah, it's interesting. It's going to be an adjustment for certain.
Wow. So how is the weather? I'm going to be there next week. How's the weather?
It is so hot. You can see how well dressed I am.
That's the most casual we've ever seen you.
I know. It is so ungodly hot.
Welcome to the South.
And you know what they say? If you can't stand the heat, go to the South, right? Is that what they say?
They say
welcome.
Move back to the Bay is what they say.
Matthew was asking Jason, are you doing a Salem event tomorrow?
I am not doing a Salem event. I know that a person I wrote a book with, Estrella Taylor, was there last weekend for Witch City Tarot. So they might have advertised our book with my name there. But alas, I am not in Salem. I wish I was in Salem this weekend.
I would be stalking you.
Well, we would just be hanging out. And I would be like, keeping Not a Doll on my lap and other things. It's great.
And making certain that it gets haunted with your spirit.
Oh, Jason's already met Not a Doll.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And sleeping on your Richard-Lael pillow. It would be fabulous.
Oh, that is funny. All right. Well, no other questions. 100 degrees. Janet is where everybody's glad you made it. Events that when you always want to ask questions, but they can't. Temperature records are being broken, and not in a good way. So, all right. Well, I guess we could slowly go through an online Salem witchcraft event. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not, but I mean, again, it could be Estrella, and because we wrote that book together, our names sometimes show up, and also Laura Tempest Zakroff, because we wrote the Witch's Altar together. Hopefully, I don't have something on the agenda that I forgot.
In the morning,
which you never know. Sometimes that happens to me.
All right. Our producer wants to know if anybody has any favorite episodes of the Muppet Show.
I actually have one that I can tell a story about. So this is going to take us way back to the time of the Muppets in the early days. First of all, one of the best things I loved about the Muppets growing up was another holiday special, which was John Denver and the Muppets. And I love the John Denver and the Muppets CD, and I have that CD or the music, the album, however you want to call it. So I still have that music because I'm a big John Denver fan as well.
Me
So
too.
you add the two things together and it's like, I cannot get over that. So that is part of my holiday Yule festivities, is listening, because Jason and I have that in common, as we love holiday music. And so as soon as Thanksgiving is over, because I wait till after Thanksgiving, Jason.
As soon as
John
Halloween
Denver
is done.
No.
It
No.
starts.
I wait till after Thanksgiving, and we bring the John Denver and the Muppets out. They're part of our holiday every year, along with the Emmett Otter songs. But one episode in the Muppet Show, which was I think Monday nights, 30 minutes or something like that every week, there was an episode where they're singing The Gambler with Kenny Rogers. Do you know that episode? You remember that sequence?
Yes.
That sequence scared me so much as a little kid, because I was so upset because the dude dies and they actually show him as a ghost.
Yep.
And so after that, every time there was any old Muppets that were supposed to be old people, it freaked me out. So, but I have a fondness in my heart for that in the song. And every time I hear The Gambler by Kenny Rogers, I think of the Muppets.
Can I just hop in real quick? Colin just said I saw Halloween decorations on sale already today. And if I can just say, as someone who decorates their house, like that's when I go shopping for my home decor, my all the time home decor. They come out right after 4th of July, or like right at 4th of July is when it starts.
You know, for us, we're putting up our Labor Day decorations right now. We have our stockings hung up for socialist Eugene V. Debs, who ran for president in the early 20th century. And we have a giant AFL-CIO banner on our porch. So, I mean, you do you, but I'm gonna support Labor Day first, because labor is important.
Courtney, when you make it to Vegas, let me know, because I have a friend whose store, it's called the Halloween store. It's all year long, and she also has like real home decor, like lamps and rugs.
Well, so my dining room rug I got at Home Depot. I have a black, beautiful. I got my dining table I got for free on like Craigslist or something, but it's a beautiful black marble dining room table, and then my rug is black. And if you just walk across it, it just looks like a black rug. But if you look really close, it's checkered, like black checkered, with black skull and crossbones embedded in the checkers. But it's like the way that the fabrics turn, so like it's all the same color. You can't really tell unless you really look at it. But that's my all the time. And then I have like black shag rug in my living room, and I have skulls, and I have like I will make a trip to Vegas to go to the Halloween store because I love Halloween.
She has everything. There was a guy when I was doing my weekend there last month or so. There was a guy in there. I can't remember which way he was going. His whole house was like vampire black and red, and he wanted to go to Halloween black and orange or something. So he's looking for all new orange accoutrements and things like, or versa versa. I can't remember, but it was hysterical.
My front porch welcome mat is also Welcome Foolish Mortals from Haunted Mansion.
Yeah.
And like how early is too early? My Christmas tree is still up from Christmas because the lights bring me joy, and I like to look at it. So there's no time. Yeah, exactly. That's where my magic is the self-care that goes into looking at my decorations at my house.
My Labor Day decorations bring me joy, Courtney. They bring me a great deal of joy.
I love that for you.
Okay, we're almost done though. Now we are over thin. So if anybody's got anything going out, say it really fast in 1 minute.
I'm at Sacred Harvest Festival in Minnesota next week, Monday through Sunday. So it's very exciting.
I've got
the Debauchery Ball in Atlanta, second of
September.
something or other. Anyway, Debauchery. September. Yeah.
I've got Hex Fest next week, and I got Michigan Paracon 2 weeks after that. Anybody else?
I have piles of manuscripts on my floor behind me that need to be read, that are fantastic books that you all will need in about a year when they're all published on the shelves. So that is what I am doing. And no, I'm not afraid of ghosts. And no, I'm not Heather Greene, the whiskey expert. Someone asked that earlier. I'm Heather Greene, the witch, not the whiskey expert.
But you're not quite a novice either.
HeatherGreene.net, not .com.
It's my birthday month officially. So
Oh.
I get to celebrate myself all month long.
And you get to pick our movie in 2 weeks, right? 3 weeks.
3 weeks. 3 weeks, yeah. Or
What are
I
we
don't
doing
know,
next
the end
week?
of the month.
Did we decide what we're doing next week?
No, we've got to.
Okay, I guess we should have done it before we forgot. I'm so busy. All right, well, it's almost that time, so we have one more thing to do, which is here we go. 1, 2, 3.